Israel violated the ceasefire agreement with Palestine at least 80 occasions, with multiple attacks on Gaza that have killed at least 97 people. And in Ecuador, the national strike reached its fifth consecutive week following the government's announcement of the suspension of negotiations with indigenous organizations. And in the United States, Mercenary Goudreau, mastermind of the failed Operation Gideon, confirmed that the so-called Los Soles cartel was created by the CIA in the 1990s. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin the news. Israel violated the ceasefire agreement with Palestine on at least 80 occasions, with multiple attacks on Gaza that have killed at least 97 people. According to the government media office in the Gaza Strip, so far there have been 80 documented cases of ceasefire violations by Israel, which includes direct gunfire targeting civilians, the use of fire belts, and arrests. The newest attacks resulted in the death of at least 5 Palestinians and several injuries, mainly in the towns of Deir al-Balah and al-Sawaida, bringing the death toll since the ceasefire agreement to 97, with 230 people injured. Also in Palestine, President Mahmoud Abbas received Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs at the United Nations, Tom Fletcher, at the presidential headquarters in Ramallah to discuss the humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip. During the meeting, the UN Secretary informed President Abbas about the difficult conditions in the enclave and detailed the United Nations efforts to deliver aid to citizens. The Palestinian leader thanked him for the visit and emphasized that the indispensable role of UNRWA, which is the UN Agency for Refugees, in delivering aid to Gaza and the West Bank. Finally, the Palestinian leader reaffirmed the State of Palestine's willingness to assume full responsibility in the Gaza Strip. In the Philippines, Typhoon Fengshen has left at least 5 people dead, including 2 minors. According to reports from disaster management authorities, the tragedy took place in a village near the city of Pitogo, where a tree fell on a house, killing all the family members inside. The Philippines National Meteorological and Hydrological Services Agency reported that Fengshen caused wide wind gusts of up to 90 kilometers per hour as it passed over Manila Bay. The agency also reported that nearly 47,000 people have been evacuated due to the risk of flooding and landslides in coastal areas of the country. And Tegucigalpa, the capital of Honduras, will remain on red alert due to the torrential rains that have been battering the country for more than 3 weeks. The Secretariat for Risk Management and National Contingencies issued the alert in the capital, as well as in the southern departments of the country, Valle and Choluteca. This measure, at its highest level, requires the implementation of mandatory evacuation plans in high-risk areas due to the increased flow of the Guascoran and Choluteca rivers. Honduras is one of the countries most prone to extreme weather events, so last week the government decided to allocate nearly $19 million to meet basic needs and repair the damage suffered by the people. Meanwhile, in El Salvador, authorities declared an orange alert due to the heavy rains recorded on Sunday. In this context, authorities warned of the high probability of flooding and rising river levels, as well as of a high risk of rockfalls, which could block roads and highways and affect communities near slopes and mountainous areas of the country. Civil protection teams specified that the highest accumulated rainfall was 83.4 millimeters, recorded at the Zaragoza station in the department of La Libertad. The adverse weather is due to a low-pressure system moving over the Barlovento Islands in the eastern Caribbean, which meteorological experts stated has the potential to become a disturbance in the coming days. And in Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum supervised the progress of cleanup and the census of houses affected by heavy rainfall in the state of Puebla. The visit took place in the city of Pantepec, where the Mexican president reviewed the recovery processes and the care provided to those affected. During the last week, Sheinbaum has made official visits to several of the localities most affected by the emergency, urging the authorities to continue their coordinated efforts to ensure support for the affected communities. According to official data, between October 7th and the 11th, 79 people were reported dead and 39 missing in the states of Veracruz, Hidalgo, Querétaro, and San Luis Potosí. We now have our first break coming up. First, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Ecuador, the government of Daniel Noboa announced the suspension of dialogue with indigenous sectors, justifying that conditions are not favorable. A statement issued by the head of government explained that the reason for this decision is based on impositions that break the word of what was previously agreed upon, as well as changes in the parties to the discussions and in the initial commitments. In the same document, the government warned that there are no conditions for dialogue, adding that it will not accept pressure or blackmail. The announcement of the end of the dialogue comes amid growing tensions in several provinces of the country due to the national strike, which has been harshly repressed by police forces. In this scenario, the national strike reached its 5th consecutive week following the government's announcement of the suspension of negotiations with indigenous organizations. Indigenous peoples and unions continued their resistance on the roads with partial closure of several avenues. Imbabura, Pichincha, Cotopaxi, and Loja are blocked by demonstrators demanding that their requests be met by national authorities. In this regard, the protesters demanded a reduction in the value-added tax to 12%, investment in social programs, and guarantees for the country's agricultural production. In Bolivia, the candidate for the Christian Democratic Party, Rodrigo Paz Pereira, was elected president according to official data from the preliminary result systems quick count. The Supreme Electoral Court of Bolivia announced the preliminary official result of the quick count of votes that declared Rodrigo Paz Pereira as the winner of the second presidential round with 54.61% of the valid votes, while the far-right candidate Jorge Tuto Quiroga of the Free Alliance Party obtained 45.39% of the votes. In that sense, the elected president will take office on November 8th. Now that he has been elected president of Bolivia, let's learn a little bit more about Rodrigo Paz Pereira, son of former President Jaime Paz Zamora, whose term was consolidated with the support of dictator Hugo Banzer, began his political career in 2002. His subsequent municipal administration was marked by allegations of corruption and controversial public works. He was a clear promoter of the destabilization that led to the coup against Evo Morales and supported the regime of Yanin Áñez, responsible for the Sencata and Sacaba massacres. His government proposal, the 50-50 agenda, is criticized for being a mechanism to suffocate the central government financially and weaken its ability to implement unitary social policies. In essence, his project seeks to revive the neoliberal policies that deepen inequality and surrender national sovereignty to foreign capital in the past. And in the United States, mercenary Goudreau, mastermind of the failed Operation Gideon, confirmed that the so-called Los Soles cartel was created by the CIA in the 1990s. Goudreau dismantled the imperial narrative that accuses Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro of heading an alleged drug trafficking organization, pointed out that it was the U.S. government that founded it before the arrival of the Bolivarian Revolution. Goudreau referred to the name Los Soles cartel as a joke, explaining it came from a patch on the uniform which was imposed by the agencies such as the DEA. The mercenary pointed out that regardless of who occupies the White House, the ultimate goal is to protect the flows of resources derived from these illicit operations and maintain their hegemony in the region.
In the 90s, Cartel de Solis was stood up by the CIA. This is no secret. I mean, this is the truth. I mean,
this is the cartel which Nicolas Maduro is said to be in charge of, but may be actually defunct. And you're confirming that it was set up by the CIA in the 90s.
Oh, absolutely. This is not, we've known this for quite some time.
In addition, the U.S. mercenary Goudreau stated that the White House and various transnational governments are funding coup plots against the Venezuelan executive.
Intelligence community folks with the FBI and the DEA and Venezuelan opposition folks. And then you have the element, like my team, that was trying to actually do the work as being, hired by and directed by the Trump administration. And then the third component is the global governments. These are the guys who hired me. Their intent or their piece in this was they wanted business contracts, and so they wanted a way to monetize, I suppose, the aftermath of a Maduro-free Venezuela.
And on Sunday, evidence was revealed about the deal reached between El Salvador President Nayib Bukele and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to kidnap migrants in concentration camps in the Central American nation. According to information revealed by the Washington Post, Secretary Rubio agreed with Bukele to hand over 9 members who were in custody of the U.S. Department of Justice. The criminals have information that compromises the Salvadoran president and his program to combat violence. According to media sources, the U.S. Secretary of State used his knowledge of Spanish to create confusion in Pam Bonin's department, which allegedly dismissed the work of hundreds of experts to help Rubio fulfill the agreement with President Bukele. We now have our second break coming up. Before we invite to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. The final break, don't go away. Welcome back. In China, a new round of political deliberations has begun. The Communist Party is holding a key plenary session this week that will define the next 5-year plan with a direct impact on the country's development strategy and the global economy. Our correspondent Bruno Falsi has the details.
Greetings, comrades of teleSUR. I'm speaking from Beijing, the Chinese capital, this time to inform you that the 4th plenary session of the 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China began this Monday. At this meeting, key leaders discussed policies and strategic directions that will guide the national course. The agenda is focused on the proposal of the 15th 5-year plan, which will run from 2026 to 2030, and it's expected to contribute to the maintaining an average GDP growth of close to 5% and reinforce progress in poverty, industrial modernization, and technological capacity. Dong Yu, an executive vice of the Institute of Development Planning of Tsinghua University, noted that the plan will prioritize innovation, productive modernization, and the promotion of emerging industry, such as the artificial intelligence, the renewable energy, and electric mobility. Furthermore, it seeks to integrate science, education, and talent, promoting a knowledge-based economy with structural reforms and security measures to balance growth and stability. The final document will be presented to the National People Congress in March of 2026 for formal approval. With this new stage, China is moving toward the socialist modernization projected for 2035, consolidating its role as an engine of innovation and global growth. With this news, we return to the studio in La Habana, Cuba.
Thank you, Bruno. Let's now move on to another important gathering of journalists, and this happening in Cuba. The Grandma Rebelde International Festival closed in Havana on Sunday after 3 days of debates over the role of leftist journalism. teleSUR was there, and our colleague Belén de los Santos has the story.
The 60th anniversary of the founding of the Cuban newspapers Grandma and Juventud Rebelde was the reason for this international gathering in Havana. The festival Grandma Rebelde brought together Cuban and international media for 3 days to exchange experiences and rethink the challenges and needs of leftist journalism in the 21st century.
Here we gathered the Cuban media. We have television, radio, and newspapers, not only those here from the capital, but also from the province who have come to this festival. Alongside us, there are also important international media from Asia, Europe, and Latin America. This is also an opportunity to connect and exchange with our audience, with our people.
In the year leading up to the 100th anniversary of his birth, this first edition of the festival was dedicated to Fidel. His commitment to building rigorous journalism close to the workers continues to inspire communicators of the new generations.
Fidel was a man who always took the truth as his primary weapon, the press as his rifle, a powerful force for the battles he fought. I always think back to March of 1952, when Batista staged the coup. What did that young Fidel, with so many revolutionary ideas, with such a strong desire to see a different Cuba do? He took to the press as a weapon, and what was his first shot? That powerful article titled "Revolution, Not a Swipe."
The days have been marked by cooperation and exchange. Representatives from media outlets from Venezuela, Brazil, Vietnam, and the United States gathered in the Cuban capital, aware that the challenging international context marked by a coordinated advance of the right worldwide demands greater solidarity among the international working class.
The people of the United States don't want foreign wars. The people of the United States are having a hard time putting food on the table, are having a hard time finding quality schools for their children to go to, don't have medical care. You know, people in the US are suffering because they can't go to the doctor when they're extremely ill. And yet we see our government spending so much money to enact wars that the people of the US don't even want to participate in and in fact are against.
We have to exchange experiences and share to discover how to do communication and journalism in the 21st century, especially with so many challenges and so many threats, to the experiences that we, independent and leftist organizations and media, defend so strongly.
3 days filled with debate, exchange, and conversation with one common goal: to strengthen existing alliances to narrate the present from the wisdom of our territories. Belén de los Santos, Denise Arabí, para teleSUR, desde La Habana, Cuba.
We visit Caracas to meet its people, to learn about its culture and also its cuisine. If you are curious to know what life is like in 2025 in the capital city, join us in this new report from Venezuela on the Move. Details with Álvaro Fragua from Caracas.
The walls of Caracas speak with every stroke. Their artists reclaim history, struggles, and popular memory. Here, art is not hung in galleries, it is experienced on every corner.
We try to make the walls speak, to make the walls tell a story, to make the walls inspire us, and at the same time shape us as citizens. Because many people are unaware of their history. And also, we work in many community spaces, so there are spaces that are dedicated to children, or rather to free play and imagination.
There are hundreds of murals, but Victor advocates for a city free of gentrification, insisting that space should not be placed at the service of tourists. He also highlights the solidarity of peoples against imperialism.
So we are reflecting here what the struggle is and the support as Venezuelans for the Palestinian struggle, because the Palestinian struggle is our struggle.
From Bolivar Square, the historical heart of the city, one can understand the blend of past, present, and future that defines Caracas. Despite the daily threats from the U.S. administration, you can feel the tranquility in the air.
Caracas has been a city with its people, which has had peace and inner peace, but is always alert to any circumstance that may arise. In other words, today we are in this moment calm. Anyone can be reading as I am, but we are convinced that if something troublesome arises, we will go out and fight back.
After the necessary stop to enjoy one of the best coffees in the world, we climbed up to the popular neighborhood of San Agustin, where the views and creativity become dazzling. There, we met Lisandro, who invited us to an afternoon of rumba.
If you want, come here on Friday so you can see after 6 p.m. down there, in San Agustin del Sur, so you can see the joy that is there.
The residents of this neighborhood have their own tune, but with regard to Trump's threats, they are in harmony with the general feeling of the capital.
Well, we're getting on with our lives, and it's not that we're worried. We're just preparing ourselves, and we're ready for whatever comes. We are here, ready to defend this land, even if it costs us our lives.
La Candelaria is one of the best areas to savor Caracas. The contrast between sweet corn and salty cheese makes cachapa one of the most beloved dishes among Caracas residents. But there are many more unforgettable recipes.
Well, for my taste, the rib soup or the chicken soup, which is the most familiar, and the arepas, which should not be missing from the Venezuelan table, and, therefore, the cachapa.
After trying this delicious snack, all that's left is to get ready for an afternoon of partying.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.